Well, it's hard for me to speculate because a lot of what happens in the economic development world is private transactions. And so, in particular, with big box stores, especially those that are owned by chains, they usually have their own criteria for what they're looking for when they're redeveloping the properties, who they will and won't sell to. A lot of them have restrictions in terms of selling to businesses that might be competitive with their core business. So it really is, it's very case by case. It's hard to make generalizations. One thing that's interesting about the Circuit City building is that it is owned locally. It's not still owned by the chain. Obviously, the chain went bankrupt. And so a local development company did pick that up. And so it's interesting to see the options that they may have for redeveloping that particular property. Home Depot, I think, is a little bit more of an unknown just because their national standards will dictate what they ultimately are ready to do with that property. And they obviously have the capital to be able to hold that for longer than someone smaller or more local might. I think that the last few years have definitely shown some progress in redeveloping some of those large big box stores. We've had a number in the Bangor Mall area that have been redeveloped successfully and are now, very productive and healthy pieces of the economy out there. I think it's interesting to note, though, that the disconnect, and we see this on the industrial side, not just retail. Retail is more visible, but these very large buildings are obviously much harder to redevelop than smaller spaces. If these were small spaces that were chopped up into, 10,000 square foot spaces, they would be much easier to rent, and we would have people, knocking on their door. It's very overwhelming for businesses to take over a space that's that large, whether it's retail or industrial. And so part of the challenge is we have a disconnect a little bit in the market in terms of what potential users are looking for and what's available in inventory. If you look for small retail space out by the Bangor Mall, you're going to be very hard pressed to find it. Basically, as fast as it's being built, it's filling up, and so we don't have a lot of vacancy out there. It takes a lot, though, for somebody to take a large building like a Home Depot or Circuit City and cut it up into smaller space. That's a really tough pill to swallow.